Hello Zenith women and welcome to the channel. She moves like a shadow, speaks when necessary, and rules without a throne. Who is she? For centuries, history has obsessed over queens, warriors, and revolutionaries. But what about the women who never sought the spotlight yet shaped the world anyway? The Sigma female is not just a modern social concept. It's an ancient force, a silent archetype that has existed long before society had words to define her. Here's a fact. Some of the most influential women in history remain unnamed. Not because they were powerless, but because they understood a secret most people still haven't figured out. True power doesn't always announce itself. From the lone huntresses of myth to the enigmatic advisors of emperors, the Sigma female has thrived in every era, effortlessly walking the line between solitude and influence. And let's be honest, while alphas and betas are busy battling for dominance, the Sigma female is somewhere far away, sipping tea, making power moves in silence, and wondering why everyone else is so obsessed with labels. In a world that constantly tries to categorize women, she remains the one force that refuses to be defined. Ancient yet modern, seen yet unseen, feared yet admired. So, who exactly is the Sigma female and why does she transcend time itself? Let's find out. Number 1. Historical figures without names. History loves to name its heroes, but what about the ones who worked in silence behind the scenes, yet shaped the world just as much, if not more, than those in the spotlight? Sigma females have always existed, yet many of them remain nameless. Not because they were insignificant, but because they understood something that most people never grasp. True power doesn't always need recognition. It moves through influence, not applause. Some of the greatest decisions in history were whispered, not declared. The advisors behind emperors, the strategists behind kings, the quiet forces in political movements. Many of these women never demanded titles, yet they dictated the course of entire civilizations. Their names weren't etched into history books, not because they lacked impact, but because they chose influence over vanity. They knew that being known wasn't the same as being powerful. A Sigma female doesn't crave credit, and that's precisely what makes her so effective. She can dismantle structures, shift social dynamics, and shape entire ideologies while others fight for the illusion of control. The world remembers figures like Cleopatra and Joan of Arc, but how many unknown women played equal or greater roles without ever stepping into the public eye? The truth is, history is filled with Sigma females whose names we'll never know, but whose presence altered everything. They operated in shadows, not out of fear, but out of choice. They were the hidden architects of revolutions, the quiet minds behind movements, and the unseen hands that guided history without ever leaving a signature. Legacy for a Sigma female isn't about being remembered. It's about making an impact so profound that the world changes, whether anyone knows she was behind it or not. Number 2. Time travelers of identity. A Sigma female isn't bound by the era she lives in. She bends time itself by carrying an unshakable sense of self wherever she goes. Drop her in an ancient royal court, and she maneuvers through palace intrigue with the same quiet control she'd use in a modern corporate boardroom. She doesn't just adapt to new environments. She masters them, learns their unspoken rules, and plays the game better than those who created it. Unlike those who cling to outdated traditions or those who chase every fleeting trend, the Sigma female moves through time without losing her core identity. In any era, she would have been the same, self-reliant, observant, and just distant enough to remain unpredictable. In ancient civilizations, she would have been the mysterious noblewoman whose counsel even kings secretly sought. In the Renaissance, she would have been the patron, the strategist behind great minds. Today, she's the woman who walks into a high-stakes negotiation and leaves with exactly what she wants, without ever raising her voice. Her power lies in understanding the nature of the world without becoming enslaved by it. Society may change, expectations may shift, but the Sigma female remains constant. She learns the language of every age, speaks it fluently when needed, and disappears into the background when she chooses. This ability to exist both within and above time makes her untouchable, never outdated, never fully understood, but always relevant. Number 3. Unwritten laws of influence. A Sigma. Female doesn't need a throne to rule or a stage to be heard. Her influence moves through unspoken channels, shaping people's decisions before they even realize it. She follows no official playbook, yet her presence alone dictates the course of conversations, trends, and even power structures. It's not manipulation, it's mastery. While others fight for visibility, she operates from the periphery, observing, calculating, and subtly shifting dynamics in ways that feel organic rather than forced. Her influence isn't loud, and that's exactly why it works. She understands that true power doesn't come from being the center of attention, but from being the quiet force that people subconsciously gravitate toward. In social circles, she's the one people seek out for advice, the person whose opinion carries weight even if she barely speaks. She never demands leadership, yet others naturally follow her lead. Her ability to sense undercurrents, hidden tensions, unspoken desires, and power imbalances allows her to shape situations without ever making a scene. This ability isn't new. It's an ancient instinct passed down through generations of women who influenced kings, navigated societies that didn't recognize their power, and left their mark without leaving a trace. The Sigma female doesn't need a title or validation because she knows something most people don't. The moment you seek control too openly, you lose it. Her power lies in restraint, in knowing when to act and when to hold back. She understands that influence isn't about being seen, it's about being felt. And by the time people realize the effect she's had on them, it's already too late. The blueprint she follows isn't written down, it's embedded in her very nature. Number 4. Echoes of the huntress archetype. The Sigma female carries the spirit of the huntress, not in the literal sense, but in her mindset, independence, and ability to thrive without reliance on a tribe. Ancient civilizations revered figures like Artemis, the goddess who roamed the wild alone, answering to no one, yet commanding respect from gods and mortals alike. She wasn't a queen, a wife, or a mother. She was something far rarer, a woman who stood entirely on her own, self-sufficient and untamed. Sigma females are her modern-day successors, embodying the same energy in a world that still struggles to understand women who refuse to conform. Like the huntress, the Sigma female doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't lead through dominance, but through an almost mystical presence that makes others take notice. She moves through life with a quiet, controlled intensity, never desperate for approval, yet never ignored. People may not always understand her, but they respect her, often without even knowing why. What sets her apart isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's an internal compass that refuses to be swayed by expectations. In ancient times, she might have been the woman who walked away from the village, choosing the untamed wilderness over forced domestication. Today, she is the one who carves her own path, unbothered by the pressure to fit in, knowing that true power comes not from belonging, but from mastering one's own space. The huntress archetype isn't just a symbol of independence. It's a warning to those who mistake silence for weakness. A Sigma female may walk alone, but that's only because no one else can keep up. Number 5. The silent revolutionaries. Sigma. Females don't announce revolutions. They are the revolution. They don't rally crowds, deliver fiery speeches, or demand to be seen. Instead, they move in ways that seem almost invisible, influencing the world through quiet defiance and undeniable impact. While others fight for control with force or charisma, a Sigma female reshapes the landscape simply by existing as proof that another way is possible. History is filled with loud leaders, but true change often comes from those who never seek a throne. Sigma females shift cultural paradigms not by directly challenging the system, but by living in a way that renders the old rules irrelevant. They don't argue about expectations. They break them without explanation. They don't seek permission. They act. And by the time the world notices, the transformation is already complete. This is why their influence is so difficult to contain. Unlike traditional leaders who rely on followers, a Sigma female doesn't need a movement behind her to create change. She embodies the very thing she represents, making her presence alone enough to challenge norms. Others look at her and realize, perhaps for the first time, that they too can exist outside the boundaries set for them. This silent ripple effect is far more powerful than any loud rebellion. The world often overlooks Sigma females at first, mistaking their quiet nature for passivity. But the most dangerous kind of revolution is the one no one sees coming, the one that happens not through noise, but through the undeniable truth of a life lived on its own terms. And by the time the world tries to catch up, the future she created is already here. Number 6. A paradox of power. The Sigma. Female is an enigma, a walking contradiction that both defies and defines power. She thrives in solitude, yet holds influence over others. She seeks no audience, yet people take notice. She rejects authority, yet those in power often find themselves shaped by her presence. This paradox isn't accidental. It's the result of an ancient wisdom that understands a fundamental truth. Real power isn't about control. It's about presence. Throughout history, power has been associated with dominance, visibility, and leadership. The Sigma female rewrites this narrative. She proves that influence isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about carrying an energy so undeniable that people adjust their behavior in response to it. She doesn't seek validation, yet she is often respected more than those who do. She isn't part of the system, yet she can bend it to her will when necessary. This duality makes her both ancient and modern. In the past, she was the seer, the strategist, the mysterious figure whose words carried weight despite holding no official title. In today's world, she is the woman who moves independently, thriving without external validation, shaping industries, relationships, and social dynamics from the background. She doesn't conform to power structures, but paradoxically, those structures often shift in her favor. Her strength lies in her detachment. She doesn't need influence, and that's precisely why she has it. She doesn't crave attention, and that's why people are drawn to her. The moment someone tries to define her, she evolves again, staying forever ahead of those trying to understand her. She is both a relic of the past and a force of the future, proving that true power has never been about control. It has always been about presence. Number 7. The ultimate decentralized thinkers. The Sigma. Female doesn't need a title, a platform, or a crown to shape the world. Unlike traditional leaders who centralize power, making themselves the face of a movement or an empire, she functions like a decentralized force, everywhere and nowhere at once. Her influence isn't tied to a position or a place. It moves fluidly through the people, ideas, and structures she touches. History glorifies emperors, CEOs, and figureheads, but real change has often come from those who work in the background, shifting minds and systems without seeking recognition. Sigma females are the human embodiment of this principle. They don't command through authority. They lead through subtlety, by planting ideas, setting examples, and creating ripples that grow into waves. They may never be the official decision makers, but their presence alters decisions all the same. This decentralized power makes them impossible to remove from influence. Take out a king, and his rule collapses. Take out a Sigma female, and nothing stops, because her impact was never confined to one position or moment. Like a secret society, her influence is distributed, woven into the fabric of the people she has affected, the systems she has quietly reshaped, and the perspectives she has shifted. The world isn't built to track or reward people like her, which is why she remains underestimated. But underestimation is her greatest advantage. While others chase status, she moves in silence. While others seek control, she disperses it. She doesn't need to sit on a throne. By the time others realize she was part of the game, she has already rewritten the rules. Number 8. The mystic rationalists, a Sigma. Female is both a seeker of wisdom and a master of logic, effortlessly merging two worlds that society often tries to separate. She carries the intuition of an ancient priestess, reading between the lines, sensing energies, and understanding unspoken truths, while also wielding the sharp, analytical mind of a scientist, dissecting reality with precision and reason. To most, these seem like contradictions. To her, they are two sides of the same coin. In the past, women who possessed deep intuition and insight were revered as oracles, healers, and seers. They could sense patterns before they unfolded, navigate human nature effortlessly, and perceive truths beyond what was visible. But in today's world, intuition alone isn't enough. That's where the Sigma female stands apart. She doesn't just rely on instinct, she backs it up with knowledge, logic, and strategy. She is just as comfortable trusting a gut feeling as she is analyzing data, knowing that the best decisions are made when intellect and instinct work together. This balance makes her impossible to predict. She is not ruled by emotion, yet she isn't disconnected from it. She understands human nature deeply, but isn't easily manipulated by it. She recognizes the power of unseen forces, psychology, energy, and timing, but grounds them in reality, using them as tools rather than blind faith. She believes in the unknown, but she doesn't fear it. Instead, she studies it, masters it, and moves through life with the confidence of someone who sees the patterns long before anyone else does. While the world tells people to choose between logic and intuition, she embraces both, proving that true intelligence isn't about choosing sides. It's about knowing when to trust the mind, when to trust the spirit, and when to let them work as one. Number 9. Invisible until necessary. Sigma. Females are masters of subtlety, effortlessly navigating through the world without demanding recognition, attention, or approval. They thrive in the background, their power quietly present but rarely seen. Unlike other dominant personalities who require constant validation and visibility, a Sigma female understands that true influence doesn't need to be flaunted. She operates beneath the surface, carefully observing, gathering information, and waiting for the exact moment when her presence will make the greatest impact. What makes her so compelling is her ability to remain unnoticed until her intervention is essential. She isn't invisible because she lacks value. She's invisible because she doesn't need the spotlight to assert her presence. When everyone else is caught up in the noise of their own egos, she waits, absorbing the flow of things, building the precise strategy needed for when she finally does step forward. In times of crisis or pivotal change, when others are scrambling for attention or recognition, the Sigma female emerges, not out of a need to prove herself, but because the moment demands her. Her actions, when they come, are always purposeful, calculated, and decisive. She doesn't need to explain herself. By the time she speaks or acts, everyone realizes her importance. Her silence is not weakness, it's a form of strength. She understands that power isn't about being constantly in the front, it's about being present at the right moment. By operating beneath the radar, she remains unpredictable and untouchable, a force to be reckoned with only when the situation truly calls for it. Number 10. No need for a tribe, yet always respected by one. Sigma. Females don't chase belonging. They've learned that true strength lies in self-sufficiency. They don't feel the need to be part of a tribe, to blend into a group, or to seek approval from any collective. They stand apart, carving their own path, perfectly content in their solitude. Yet, paradoxically, they often become the ones that others turn to for guidance, wisdom, and support. This dynamic is fascinating because it flips the traditional narrative of leadership. While others scramble for status within a group or community, the Sigma female remains indifferent to such pursuits. She doesn't need a title, a following, or a sense of belonging to be influential. Her power lies in her ability to operate independently, yet people are drawn to her anyway. It's as if her very presence calls out to those who need insight, someone to help them see beyond their immediate concerns. People sense something in the Sigma female that they can't quite articulate. Perhaps it's her calm self-assurance, her ability to think clearly under pressure, or the aura of someone who has already walked the path others are still trying to find. This quiet magnetism doesn't require force or effort, it's organic. Groups seek her out not because she demands attention, but because her wisdom offers clarity in times of uncertainty. Ironically, the more they stand apart, the more they end up being respected and sought after by others. It's not because they actively seek to lead. It's because in a world full of noise, their silent strength becomes the foundation on which others build. The Sigma female doesn't need a tribe, but she always has one, whether she wants it or not. In a world obsessed with labels, definitions, and the constant need to belong, the Sigma female remains a beautiful contradiction, a force of nature whose power lies in her independence, quiet strength, and subtle mastery of the world around her. She doesn't seek attention, yet commands it effortlessly. She doesn't crave validation, yet influences everything from the shadows. Through the lens of history and in the pulse of modern society, she exists as a timeless archetype, embodying the ancient wisdom of those who thrived outside the boundaries and the modern intelligence of those who have learned to operate in a complex world without losing themselves. Her brilliance doesn't scream. It whispers in the spaces between action and silence, in the careful observation of the world and the deliberate, calculated responses that follow. She is both the hunter and the philosopher, the mystic and the rationalist. Her power doesn't come from being everywhere, it comes from being exactly where she chooses to be at the right moment, with the right influence. She is a paradox, decidedly independent, yet invariably sought after for her insight. A true leader, not by force, but by the quiet authority of her presence. As we move through a world that often values noise over substance, the Sigma female teaches us that real power doesn't need to be seen to be felt. Her legacy is one of profound influence, created not by seeking control, but by mastering the art of subtlety, independence, and wisdom. She reminds us that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back, trust yourself, and let your actions speak louder than words ever could. If you found yourself captivated by the quiet power and undeniable presence of the Sigma female, don't let the conversation end here. Hit that subscribe button and join a community that celebrates independence, intellect, and true influence. Stay tuned for more content that dives deep into the mysteries of power, wisdom, and what it really means to thrive in today's world. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and continue exploring the incredible world of the Sigma female.